Welcome to Kaumudy Global. I'm Anjana and let's know on the need for legislation addressing elder abuse in India. Elder abuse or the abuse of older persons is a complex phenomenon. It's rather broadly defined by the World Health Organization as a single or repeated act or lack of appropriate action occurring within any relationship where there is an expectation of trust which causes harm or distress to an older person. June 15 was first designated as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day by the International Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse in 2006. The day was subsequently recognized by the United Nations in a General Assembly in 2011. Our understanding of what constitutes abusive behavior is usually shaped by the socio-cultural context within which people interact with each other in the community. The social realities inhabited by older adults vulnerable to abuse, however, is much more complex and nuanced. Families and caregivers can be source of both support and abuse, often interwoven in a complex manner. Further, older adults can be both victims and perpetrators of abuse, sometimes caught up in a cycle of role conflicts with enmeshed relationships and associated with mutual abuse. The Technical Group on Population Projections for India and States for the year 2011 to 2036 estimates there are about 138 million older adults in India in 2021, which includes 67 million men and 71 million women. 10.1% of the population of India and 16.5% of the population of Kerala are aged 60 years and above. Most older adults, as the 10 of 66 and longitudinal study of aging in India indicate, live at home in the community, usually with families, usually in rural areas. 72% of older men and 21% of older women continue to work after 60 in rural areas. 51% of older men and 10% of older women continue to work after 60 in urban areas. 10% of older women and 48% of older men are economically independent in rural areas. 11% of women and 57% of men are economically independent in urban areas. Socio-economic deprivation, dependency in late life and gender disparity are robust indications of vulnerabilities to abuse and mistreatment. Thus, a large swath, millions indeed, of older adults in India are vulnerable to abuse and lack effective social or legislative safeguards. The WHO in 2017 estimated 1 in 6 older persons living in the community experienced some form of abuse in the past year. The American Psychological Association, APA, recognizes 7 types of elder abuse: neglect, abandonment, emotional or psychological abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, and self-neglect. The WHO estimated the prevalence of 5 out of these 7 types of abuse. They found that 15.7% of older adults reported undergoing 1 or more types of abuse in the past year. Emotional or psychological abuse was the most common at 11.6% and sexual abuse was the least common at 0.9%. Longitudinal study of aging in India in 2021 estimated 5% of older adults in India faced elder abuse in 2020, much lower than the WHO. However, an older HelpAge India community study placed the estimate much higher at 36% of all older adults living in the community. Further, 51% of older persons reported some form of neglect. Most respondents reported abuse originated from family members. Of the older persons facing abuse and neglect, 53% took no action and 92% registered no complaint against their abusers. While 88% were aware of the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007, only 18% were aware of the presence of law enforcement agencies handling elder abuse. Finally, 48% of older adults indicated willingness to pursue action if adequate support and provisions are available. Respondents also suggested measures to reduce their vulnerability to abuse. The greatest felt needs were economic and included having property of their own and a steady income. Bearing in mind that statistics both across the world and in India indicate only the abuse willingly reported by the people surveyed, it seems safe to estimate that the true prevalence of elder abuse in the community may be much higher, as much as to 4 to 6 times more so. This is further complicated by different thresholds and definitions of what constitutes abusive behavior in any age group and across genders and cultures. While physical and sexual abuse are easily identifiable, emotional and financial abuse are more insidious and pervasive. What is clear is that elder abuse, as with all forms of domestic abuse, has increased in prevalence during the COVID-19 pandemic, with an implication of the vulnerabilities including restricted mobility, loneliness and social isolation associated with aging. While India has a national policy on older persons 1999 and National Program for Health Care of the Elderly implemented in 2011, elder abuse and its management are inadequately addressed. The Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension implemented in 1995 and the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act of 2007 are the social welfare measures with greatest penetration amongst older adults. The provisions both make, however, are financial and stop short of addressing other, more prevalent forms of abuse. What would the legislation of elder abuse change? As of now, elder abuse is covered along with other forms of abuse under constitutional safeguards of fundamental human rights apart from the Indian Penal Code and Criminal Procedure Code. The major limitation here is that older persons, by virtue of higher dependency needs, find conventional legislation harder to access. Further, the burden of reporting abuse and seeking redressal is placed upon the older adult. Unlike women and children, older persons lack national welfare commissions to serve as watchdogs and for advocacy. In this context, the Elder Justice Act and Adult Protective Services in the USA may serve as useful reference points to map and plan legislation safeguarding older persons from abuse in the subcontinent. This is Anjana signing off. Do like and share this video. For further updates, subscribe to Kaumudy Global.